Hey everyone, Felix from Nintendo Life here, and over the last few years I've been doing these missed reviews, essentially reviews that we never got around to do here on the channel. And wouldn't you know it, Ori, the first and the second game, never made its way over to the YouTube channel, so here we are today. We've decided to put both reviews in one big video. So first we'll be reviewing Ori and the Blind Forest, and then afterwards Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it with Ori and the Blind Forest. This review was written by the wonderful Jake Baldwin for NintendoLife.com and has been adapted into this video by me. Ori and the Blind Forest has a slightly unusual history. Initial development was led by team members scattered across the globe, many of whom hadn't even met each other until E3 2014. Despite a long and unique development, the game was well received when it was initially released on the Xbox One in 2015, with the only casualty along the way being a mooted Xbox 360 version. Being a Metroidvania, the structure of the game should be familiar to most people. Players are presented with a complete world, which is fundamentally non-linear, yet it is mostly locked off and requires the player to obtain various abilities throughout the game in its linear fashion. These abilities range from the more traditional set of skills such as a double jump to reach places too high to jump to normally, to the charged flame which can be used to blast down barriers so players can progress. These become more varied as players progress through the game and also more tricky to pull off. The game is free of loading screens, instead presenting the world as a continuous whole. Even the warp points are carefully designed to not make the player feel they have actually left the game world. Players can return to previous areas once they have obtained new abilities in order to access parts which were previously inaccessible, with the game keeping track of how much of each area has been completed for those who want that vital 100% rating. So far, so Metroidvania then. But what makes Ori and the Blind Forest so special is its presentation. Unveiling a world which is dark in color scheme yet much lighter in tone, this game is a candidate for the prettiest 2D platformer of all time. When us grumpy old folk complain that the mainstream of 2D gaming ended a generation or two too early, this game is exactly what we were talking about. Not only is there a dense, borderline obsessive amount of detail in the world, but all this is backed by extremely fluid animation, and furthermore by a fantastical musical score, which is as atmospheric as you might expect from this type of game, but also responds to the events happening on screen. On occasion, when disaster happens and Ori must run for their life, the music picks up the pace and adds to the sense of panic and impending danger. It is clear that there was a close collaboration between the entire development team. The music never simply feels layered on top of the game, but an integral part of it. This would be for naught if the gameplay wasn't up to snuff, but Ori and the Blind Forest certainly isn't all style, no substance. This game is also a joy to play. Taking its inspiration from Ubisoft's more recent Rayman outings, everything feels smooth and fluid, yet also precise and intricate. The game can certainly be challenging, but it never feels like you're fighting with the controls to make Ori do what you want them to do. This sense of having full control over the character is critical to ensure the game's challenge never becomes frustrating, as Ori and the Blind Forest always make sure the player feels they can do it. It's just within grasp, they just have to try one more time. The game has a save system seemingly designed to accommodate this. Ori and the Blind Forest's generous save system consists of fixed save points in conjunction with the player being able to create a custom save point, called a soul link, at any point providing they have enough energy cells. Naturally, players will create a new soul link before any potentially difficult areas. Perhaps the only real issue here is the seemingly lack of quick load feature, meaning players may find it easier to kill Ori themselves after making a mistimed jump rather than traverse back to the save point on foot. This is a strange oversight given what the developers were trying to do, though not a deal breaker. The game never feels like it's making players replay sections just to pad out the length. Instead, Ori and the Blind Forest challenges players to keep trying and get better without this ever feeling like forced repetition. This sense of reward is palpable. On the technical side, this seems to be an utterly flawless conversion from its Xbox One big brother. The team has done an excellent job getting this game to run flawlessly with no noticeable dips in performance. Outstanding. So in conclusion, what we have here is a flawless port of a game which absolutely deserves all the praise it has received. From start to finish, Ori and the Blind Forest is a real joy to play, challenging yet never feeling unfair or discouraging, and almost relaxing to control. The mesmerizing art style and the musical score are the icing on the cake that makes the player actually care about the protagonist and want to keep playing to the game's conclusion. It was a bit of a surprise to see this game initially make its way to Switch, but we're glad that it did. We here at Nintendo Live give Ori and the Blind Forest for the Nintendo Switch a 9 out of 10. And now with the review of the first game done, let's move on to Ori and the Will of the Wisps. This review was written by the wonderful Brett Posner-Fertman and, well, has been converted into this video by me. This game picks up right after the events of the first game. Ori and the Will of the Wisps begins with Ori and their family racing Ku, an owlet from the first game. After Ku and Ori begin to practice flying, they suddenly crash over a mysterious new forest, becoming separated from one another. Now it's up to Ori to explore the forest, rescue Ku, and return back home. While the story is simple in concept, much like the first game, there is a strong emphasis on emotional impact during storytelling moments. For instance, there's a scene where Ori's adoptive family realizes Ori and Ku have gone missing and nervously take a boat into a mysterious forest, even though it's clear that they never understand how dangerous the mission is. Moments like these exemplify that the world building and storytelling of Ori are just as much of a focus as the gameplay, creating an experience that transcends a normal game. In addition to the world building, this game also shines from an atmospheric department. Each environment is unique and gorgeously created, from the foreground and background to the enemy and character designs, creating the illusion of a living, breathing world. This is only furthered by the addition of dialogue and side quests for friendly inhabitants of the world, something entirely new to the Ori series. To top it all off, everything runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, with minimal graphical downgrades during the transition to Switch. One aspect of this game that is extremely noticeable is the shift in gameplay focus. While at the game's core it is still a Metroidvania game like its predecessor, it is a much more linear experience this time around. There are still collectibles hidden behind areas Ori needs to backtrack to, but they're not nearly as much of a focus anymore. Instead, there's a greater emphasis on side quests, shops, and the new Spirit Trials system. Side quests, another new addition to the series, mostly equate to sending Ori to retrieve an item somewhere in the world and getting rewarded with Spirit Light, the game's form of currency. This is used to purchase upgrades of shards. Shards replacing the skill tree from the previous game, allowing Ori to equip several different perks at a time. At first, the challenge felt limiting, but once more perks and shard slots were unlocked, it became a welcome change. Finally, the Spirit Trial system is probably the most lackluster of additions. Scattered around the world are Spirit Trial pedestals that initiate a time trial race against a ghost Ori. While the player's best time can be uploaded online, the only real reward for completing them is more Spirit Light, which makes them not worth the effort most of the time. This is not to say that everything is different in the sequel. No, the core structure of the first game is still intact. For the majority of the game, Ori is exploring a vast interconnected world, heading to different dungeons and picking up collectibles and upgrades along the way. The aspect that seems to have gotten the most attention this time around is the combat. Instead of a little ball of light that Ori attacked with in the first game, Ori now has access to a light sword, a hammer, a bow, and more. Each weapon has its strengths and weaknesses, but this change significantly helps the flow of Ori, especially in aerial combat. While not every upgrade is everyone's cup of tea, there are plenty of shards and upgrades that give everyone a playstyle they enjoy. So in conclusion, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is not just a great sequel. In many ways, it outdoes its predecessor. The addition of more customization options, a greater focus on combat, and a better developed story, all in a game that's running at 60 frames per second, allows the sequel to comprehensively outshine the original. This is a supremely enjoyable platform adventure, which everyone even the slightest bit interested should experience. We here at Nintendo Live give Ori and the Will of the Wisps on the Nintendo Switch a 9 out of 10. And there you have it. Those were the reviews of the first and second Ori games. Are there any other games that you wish we would do a missed review on? Well, let us know down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out our website nintendoloft.com, where you can find reviews like these but in written form. And also, why don't you customize that skill tree so you can click that subscribe button in just the way that suits you. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Felix from Nintendo Live, out.